All right, we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, We Love Comics. Hopefully, you guys had an awesome and safe Halloween, and you got all the candy you were looking for, because who doesn't like free candy for wearing a, well, I wouldn't say Captain Marvel costume, but I'm sure plenty of other superhero costumes out there. Um, as usual, I want to let everybody know that because this is a PGX unboxing, I get 4 books that I send in each month to PGX. I've been doing this now for over 5 years. I send in 4 books every month. I do not pay to get them graded, but I do pay for shipping and everything. I do not get paid by them to do these videos. I am under no obligation to say anything other than my experience. I have no contract signed. For me, that is very important. Any business I'm going to do business with, I want to make sure they know that if I'm going to be talking about their product or merchandise or what have you, that I am free to be able to speak my mind without any obligations to have to say nothing but good things. And both PGX and EGS have both allowed me to have that privilege, and I want to make sure that my integrity means more than any financial gain that I could receive from companies that would pay me to say things that they want their customers to hear. So if you appreciate these kind of videos, thumbs up are always appreciated. I already got 4 people out of 4 that have done that. That's the first time I've ever had a 100% ratio, so that's awesome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, because I think people do appreciate, my channel isn't the biggest. It's not the, most special effects. I don't, pander to my audience. I don't tell them things that they shouldn't want to hear. I just lay out my truths, my experiences, and whether it resonates with you or not, that's up to you, but at least I give you the opportunity to get a fair description. So I get 4 books that I send each month to PGX. They will press them, of course grade them. They will do dry cleaning. They will do signature verification if necessary. And they also, thanks to my idea, they will, for a $5 fee, add grader's notes onto the back of the slab. I like doing that. No other company puts the grader's notes on the back of the slab, even if you paid for it. I think it's something all grading companies should do. But PGX listened to me, and I love the fact that you have an owner of a business willing to talk to, somebody that's not that important like myself. So they get the bonus of they get the benefit of hopefully having 1 or 2 or a couple of you maybe try PGX, and they get their advertisement through me for free. I get the 4 books graded every month, but I also made sure I made a deal that you guys get a benefit as well. If you send 10 or more books to PGX and use the code We Love Comics Free Press, they will press one of your comics for free. I always highly recommend that if you have a specific book you would like to have pressed, that you should mention it in your order. Otherwise, they'll just randomly pick one. So I would say that you think the one that needs it the most, or maybe the most valuable to you. Also, if you want to put grader's notes on the back of your slab, like I mentioned, if you use the code We Love Comics Grader's Notes, $5 per slab, you can get them placed onto the back of your the back of your slab. So I like that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's up to you. I always do this live, so there's no trickery. There's no editing. There's no what-if scenarios of watching somebody's video and say, boy, I wonder if what the person's claiming is accurate, whether it's a positive light or a negative light. So I always do this live. I've never done it any other different way. So this way you guys can see it. I don't know the grades. I always find out live with you, so it's a shared experience. And I will tell you the price I paid. I see so many different comic channels, they never mention the prices they pay. Honestly, I think a lot of it is because they're probably in relationships where they have to hide that information. And my wife knows she's actually subscribed to my channel. So she knows what I pay for these things, but she also knows that some of my comics bought me the house we're living in right now. So to me, it's a no-brainer to be open. Plus, it helps you guys get a general idea of what kind of prices can be found out there, because you'll notice a lot of the comics over the years, and I have all my videos up since 2017. Obviously, the ones I had on my original channel, which I shut down, are no longer there. But I've always talked about the prices I pay. and you'll always see, for the most part, that I tend to underpay even what the current values are. And speaking of which, if you saw the last video I did with the Amazing Spider-Man 300, the newsstand variant, where it had troubles inside the comic, some stains and stuff that they did not disclose. For those of you who did not read the post that I put out, I actually contacted the seller, explained the situation. Now, of course, I didn't yell and scream. I didn't make accusations or anything like that. I gave a polite, respectful message saying, I just received my comic, and this and this and this was happening with the book. What can we do to make both of us happy? And he gave me the choice, or she, I don't know. Excuse me. They gave me the choice of either I could return it for a full refund, or they would give some of the money back. I actually wanted this comic, so I said, what can we do? So this way you're making some money still, and you don't have to relist it, and you don't have to get the comic back, or it could be lost or damaged in the mail. And they offered me 50% off. So the grand total for this book, so it's probably about between a 3 and a 4, because after pressings and dry cleanings, it'd probably come out between a 3 and a 4. I paid a grand total of $163.28, which is a lot more reasonable for this book in a newsstand variant, which of course is Amazing Spider-Man 300. So I wanted to give you guys an update on that. It does pay to communicate with sellers and communicate respectfully. You know, don't make accusations, because even if somebody flat out purposely lied, if you go that route, person's going to be defensive. They're not going to most likely work with you, and you'll have to go through other means, and that's just not the way to do it. At least that's not the way I do it, and I try and explain that to my viewers so they can see, you know, every now and then you could be a jerk and demand things and get what you demand, but you tend to have better situations happen when you give out a more positive energy of yourself. In other words, being kind, treating others as you would like to be treated. Doesn't always work, but I find it tends to work more, and some people will go above and beyond to help somebody who is kind. So I highly recommend doing that. So that's the update on that. But let's do the unboxing. Of course, I did not take it out of the box yet. There are only, as far as I know, unless they sent 2 of the groups in there, which I don't believe they did. Look at the size of the book, the box, for 4 comics. I've said it before and I'll say it again. As far as packaging, PGX has been nothing but amazing in the 5+ years I've been doing this, because, knock on wood, not one batch of comics that I have ever had sent to me has ever been damaged. Alright, so they did something new. They actually put 2 pieces of cardboard in between, and these are newer bags. They used to have these ones that I didn't really like, that for some reason only went up about 3/4 of the way up the book. I never understood that, but these are the resealable ones. They're much clearer, but they usually just fold them in there. So this is new. So they protected the bags so they're not bent, and plenty of the packing peanuts, and they even, and I got to try and do this without it becoming a New Year's Eve party where confetti gets thrown all over the place. So they have also bubble wrap. They have more packing peanuts underneath, and they put the 4 comics in another box. So as usual, an amazing job of taking care of these books. Now, there has been a little bit of a delay, but only about an extra half a month. So instead of a month, it took about a month and a half. I don't spend extra money for any faster service. This is the regular service for them. And even with that, with their delay, it's faster than some of the other companies when you're paying for the faster service. So these are the 4 books. Of course, I will go over the significance of the books, because you guys know me. I love collecting key issue comics. That's primarily what I exclusively will collect. So if you're not aware of it, I will mention it, what the significance is of the specific book. I will tell you the price I paid, including shipping and all that other fun stuff. And you can see they also wrapped them in bubble wrap. So, I mean, you can't get any better than this. And then you'll see, I want to make sure I have the back side of this so I cannot see the grades. They also put it in a blue cellophane, and that keeps these from shifting because, you know, postal workers are not exactly going to treat books like there's, you know, nuclear devices in there. You know, I've seen many a box get thrown all over the place. So they do a heck of a job with making sure your comics are protected. And like I said, in the 5+ years I've been doing this with PGX, all the way back to the days I was living in New York, not one case has ever been broken. Oh, and somebody sent me a super chat. That's nice. Laro Lopez, $4.99 super chat. That was a pleasant surprise. Thank you. He says, thanks for your work. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I think there are plenty of people who appreciate my style. Again, I'm not the flashiest. I don't have special backgrounds and special effects. And I don't have music blasting in the background and all this other stuff. I just say, here's my experience. There's no edited videos. I explain the situations, and I try and make things as simple as possible. For those of you who like to collect comics for investment purposes, obviously that's not the sole reason. If you love to read them, that's great, but you're never going to grade a comic if you're buying them to read them. Some people will grade books because they just want to protect them. So when it comes to grading companies, and there are 4 major companies. You got CGC, of course, is number 1. CBCS, I would say, is number 2. I saw their new labels. They're better than what they used to be, but they're still not as good as CGC, for example, because I think CGC has the best labels. But then you have PGX and you have EGS, is an up-and-coming company, and I do work with them as well. So you have different choices. Don't just go by how most people in the comic book community tell you. For example, CGC is number 1 and the only one you should get graded. It depends on the reason why you're getting your books graded. And I've shown this example many times. And you will not get the most money if you use CGC for this particular thing. If you have a comic that has already been signed by whoever, an artist, a colorist, Stan Lee, which obviously you can't do anymore, but if you have a book that's already been signed and you send it into CGC, you're going to get it back a green label that says writing on the cover or first page or wherever. They're not going to verify that signature. I have purchased CGC books in that green label with the signature for about half of what its value is, cracked it open, and had it sent to either, well, I sent it to PGX, you guys know that, but you can also send it to CBCS, and EGS also does signature verification. So most of the time, will CGC give you the most money? They sure will. But that particular time, they will not. So you have to not go by the people just trying to, well, for whatever reason, maybe because they sell CGC books and they want to make sure the prices stay high and relevant for them to make their profit. If they cared more about the person, they would tell those situations. They just wouldn't say one company is completely bad, they can never do anything right, and one company is always right and they can never do any wrong, and no matter what you do, you're always going to get the best amount. That is being disingenuous to their fan base, the ones who made the channels who they are. So I will not do that here. GT Key Comic, always good to see, is one of my moderators, says again, Chris, what we appreciate the most is your honesty, truth, and candor, especially with regards to comic speculation. You have always said it like it is. Thanks. And thank you for that. And, you know, you could go back to all the videos that I've talked about for years, and that's why so many people say to me, you know, how come you don't do videos about speculation books? Well, it's because I was so ahead of the curve. I was talking about books in 2017 to buy that people are still talking about now, saying now's the time to get them. So for me to just make a video just to make a video and rehash things I've already talked about when you could literally just go back and find them, because I have different sections in my playlist that you can look under, would be, again, disingenuous. So I've had, unfortunately, a bad reputation from my original channel because there were people that were jealous of how fast I was moving up. I had 1,000 subscribers my first month. I wasn't even thinking I was anything different. I thought I was just another person showing comic books. But people liked what I did, and unfortunately people gave me this bad reputation. There is a very large comic book channel, which I will not name because I no longer have respect for this individual, that made a claim that I was getting paid by PGX, and people believed it, even when I had the owner, Daniel Patterson, come on a live show to debunk that. But it already damaged the credibility of me being a liar when I wasn't. My channel is extremely a former self of what it was. Now, for granted, I used to do 8-hour live shows and invite people in, and it used to be a lot of fun, and I don't do that stuff anymore, because after those people I found were just using me for their own personal use, it gave such a bad taste in my mouth, I never wanted to invite another person again. It does not change the fact that by their deeds you shall know them. All you have to do is watch videos. I've been talking for years, and I have stayed consistent, and the very few people that watch seem to like that. And I will take 17 people, 11 of which hit the like button, so that's a great ratio, appreciating what I talk about, over having 5,000 people watching so they can just say they're part of a large group. So with that being said, thank you to Laro Lopez. That was nice doing that super chat. GT Key Comic, I really appreciate the kind words. Let's get into why you are most likely here, and that is the comics. So there are 4 books. Now this one, Daniel, they didn't tell me the grade, but we talked the other day, last week actually, and he said this particular book wouldn't improve by a pressing. So he said if you press this book, it would probably damage it, and you could potentially have a lower grade from it. So I appreciate stuff like that. You know, there are some companies, whether they're from the companies that do the grading or separate companies that do pressings, they want your money, they probably need your money. They're going to press it sometimes regardless. And if it gets damaged, hey, what are you going to do? Because I've seen people that have cracked open CGC books, sent them to somewhere to get pressed, get them regraded, and actually come back either the same or lower than what they originally had. So a pressing doesn't guarantee if something is going to improve, because it depends on the situation, and it also depends on the presser. Now, PGX does what they call a dry cleaning, if that makes sense. I wish they would go over the details with me. Maybe one day we'll do a video. But they said they do dry cleaning a little differently, and to me, in my opinion, they do an amazing job at the pressings. So when they tell you it doesn't need a pressing, that means they're not going to take your money for it. That's good business. That they would rather tell you a book doesn't need pressing and not take your money than just press it and take your money, even if it's not going to improve. That to me says that they care more about just the finances. And to me, I want a business to work with me like that. Whether you do or not, again, that is up to you. So the first book, this is Peanuts #1. Now, obviously, this isn't the first appearance, but this is still a significant book. I don't know. There's also another version of this. I think it's 4-color 848 or somewhere in that area. It's the same cover, but instead of red, it's blue. This one tends to be worth a little bit more, but I only paid a grand total of $61. Oh, and they actually, I just noted, I felt it. They actually put the tabs back on, so I actually don't even have to hold it. And I love that they did that. So thank you to the people at PGX for doing this, because they know I make the videos. But I said when I make my predictions on the grade, I always predict of what I think it's going to be after a pressing and dry cleaning. So this is a lower grade book, and say it with me. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Low grade is better than no grade. There are some people that don't agree with that. Hey, to each their own. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm just sharing my expression, and people appreciate it, at least some. So I said between a 3.0 and a 3.5. Usually I go within a full grade, but I think this one was going to stay in that kind of range. And I said cream to off-white pages. So let's see how we start out. I don't know if I mentioned the price, but I'm going to mention it beforehand. I only paid $61. So no matter, even if this came back a 1.0, I would still do decently on this book. But it's definitely not going to be a 1.0. Let's find out. First grade is... Alright, so a 2.5. So see, there you go. I'm not getting special favors. That's perfectly fine with me. I am not going to be like I've seen on so many channels where they're expecting a 9.8 and get a 9.6, and then they act like, you know, their house just flew away. I'm perfectly fine with a 2.5. I said cream to off-white. It's actually cream to white. So, talks about reprint stories. Okay, so reprint stories from 4-color 878 from 1958. Okay, so actually I think the other one might be worth more, but that's okay. So it reprints. Now this came out in 1963. So this is from Gold Key. It's a Silver Age book. So no first appearance or anything like that, but it is Peanuts #1 from 1963. Paid $61. I'll take a 2.5 all day and every day. And I'll tell you something. This, for me, is a pet peeve and a reason why I won't watch some people's channels. Or at least I won't watch them again. I've seen so many channels because I like to watch comic book channels, especially graded book unboxings. I like that. So if you have a channel where you're doing, you know, graded unboxings, send a link. I love watching them. But the ones I will not watch are the ones that expect a 9.8, get a 9.6, and act like like I said, like their house just blew away. There was this one channel, I don't remember their name, and I'm not going to call them out anyway, where every book they basically said, I expected a 9.6 and a 9.8. They would get a 9 or a 9.2 or a 9.4 and be furious. And they'd be doing, this is the typical person. How is this not a 9.8? The people that look at a book and base the grading on looking at the front cover for 8 seconds and maybe looking at the back for another 8 seconds and say, how is this a 9.0, for example, irks me to no end. Because, ladies and gentlemen that collect comics, even if you've never read a book in your life and you buy them just to grade them, you do know that in between this cover and this back cover, there are things in here called pages. It fills up a book. And those pages could have rips, they could have cutouts, there could be detachments, there could be bends, there could be stains, there could be a lot of things. So looking at a cover and saying, I cannot believe this is not a 9.8. First of all, if you're that good, why would you get every one of them wrong with your predictions? And why aren't you working for the grading company? Because obviously you'd go through books quick. Up, 9.8. I cannot stand watching those channels. But hey, to each their own. So these have the grader's notes, and I'm going to read them. Like I said, if you want to add grader's notes to your PGX books, use the code WeLoveComics grader's notes. It's $5 per slab. All this information is in the description of this video or any of my videos, so you can actually check out. There are discount codes that I offer and things like that. There's the address to my web store if you're interested in any of my comic book mystery boxes. No one took advantage of that sale, but hey, what are you going to do? So let's read this. So we have multiple stress lines along the spine. That's here, of course. I always say if I'm going to have damage on a book, I'd prefer it to be on the spine. Lower grade, you're going to get stuff like that. That just means this book was read. Moderate cover, edge, and spine wear. 3-inch spine split, stains, and a spine roll. So some people would say, you know, why didn't they press it with the spine roll? Well, with the split and everything, and with the amount of color break increases, a pressing wasn't going to improve the grade. A pressing could potentially pop a staple, which could lower the grade even more. So if it's not going to improve the grade, then it's not worth the risk. And kudos to them for not trying to take somebody's money just to do something, just to say they did it. So 2.5, perfectly fine with. Not going to complain, especially for the price that I paid. All right, let's see what we got next. All right, so we got Eternals #1. This is the 30-cent variant. So this is a rarer book. To me, in my opinion, pretty much now is the time to be buying books like this. Now, the funny part is, because most people buy books based on emotion, most people aren't looking for this book. Why? Because the movie wasn't spectacular, and the price of this is crashed. Well, if you know anything about investing, buy low and sell high, you can get super deals. I paid, and of course I will tell you the price, but I paid less for this 30-cent variant than what most people pay for the regular issue. Because I made an offer to somebody for this and issue 2, which was also the 30-cent variant, and they accepted the first offer. So this, of course, is Eternals #1, 30-cent variant. It is the first appearance of the Eternals. I said with a pressing and dry cleaning, this should be between about an 8.0 and a 9.2 off-white to white pages. I paid a grand total of $54 for this book. Good luck finding the first issue, the regular comic version, for that price. So deals are out there. And 2 years ago, you would have probably paid $500-600 for this book. I paid $54. So even if it's a 1.0, I'm going to do well. But obviously, it's not going to be a 1.0. I would be incredibly shocked. So I said, what did I say? Between an 8.0 and a 9.2 off-white to white pages. Survey says. So there you go. Right in between. 9.0. So I'm perfectly fine with that. And again, with the pressings, that back, especially with it being mostly white, is beautiful. So they did mention it's the 30-cent variant. Origin and first appearance of the Eternals. Let's see, I said it was, as far as colors, off-white to white. And it's off-white to white. So I got that right for once. I'm usually not that great with that. So a 9.0 for Eternals #1, 30-cent variant, for a grand total of, $54. You don't think I can make profit off this? When in it, eventually I'll sell it. Obviously, if you really think about it, comics are things eventually somebody else has that you once owned. Most people don't get buried with their comics. They end up selling them or giving them away to somebody else, maybe to get new comics or when they pass along. So if you think about it, I'm just the recent holder of this book that will eventually go to somebody else, whether being sold or whether if I drop dead and somebody just confiscates it and claims it, who knows? But if you think about it, your entire collection most likely was owned by other people in the world at different times in life, and you're the current owner, where they will eventually be scattered all around the world once again. So, you're basically just keeping watch over them for a little while. So, let me know what you think about this in the comments section. Would you pay $54 for a 9.0 Eternals #1 30-cent variant? So, to me, it's a no-brainer to be able to look for deals when most people are not thinking about them. Because like I try and convince people of, stay away from emotions when it comes to investing. Most people would buy this when it's at its peak price. Most people aren't touching this now. And that's when you should be buying, and that's when I'm going to be buying. Because most people, they just don't pay attention. All right, 2 more to go. And thank you. Out of 27 people, 17 people have liked it. So we got our next book. All right. This is a series I have actually 2 complete sets of, and I'm a #1 away from at least 3 or 4 complete sets. All first prints. But I have 2 complete sets. This is issue #2. This is the first print. Now, you really want to be careful if you collect this book, because the printings, like for example, issue #1 has at least 9 printings. And from what I understand, they are all exactly the same, except for the color of the trade dress. Same goes for the first probably 10 to 14 for issues. So this is the first print. Get to know the colors, because if you see bone #2 with any color than this, it is not a first print. So they were supposed to do, I think it was a TV show. It got delayed a couple of times. So who knows if it's ever going to happen. Obviously, nothing in life is guaranteed. But this is something that was worth taking a chance on, especially first prints are very expensive to get. I paid a grand total of $125 for this book. I said it's about a 9.4 to 9.8 white pages. If you have the opportunity to get this series, I would highly recommend it. It's actually a great read. It's pretty funny. It's almost like the old Sergio Aragonés kind of style, but, you know, more like medieval kind of stuff and fantasy kind of stuff. But definitely it's got some humor to it. And I could absolutely see it being a very popular children's cartoon, and I hope one day they will get that back on track. Obviously, with the strikes and everything, that makes it more difficult. But I said again, Bone number 2, first print, $125 paid. I predict a 9.4 to a 9.8. Survey says. All right, so lower than what I thought. And that's perfectly fine. There is, I don't know if I saw that or not, but there is a little bit of color break on the back. I either missed it, or that might have happened in the mail, but nothing major. But again, for an 8.5 for 125, I'm perfectly fine with that. It is the first print. First appearance of Thorn. White pages, obviously with a newer book. And I'm still perfectly fine with that. Just because, first of all, I'm not a professional grader. So just because I say a grade does not guarantee that's what the grade is going to be. I tend to like to undervalue, but if you see on this back, this is almost all black. So it's going to show everything. And some things that some people that claim everything's a 9.8 doesn't seem to realize, especially on black covers, if you have a thumbprint or a fingerprint, that will reduce the grade. And you may not see that unless you angled it the right way. Or, you know, you used a magnifying glass. You know, there's a reason why professional graders don't just look at the cover and say, oh, it's a 9.8. They go over it. So, especially if you have a book like this, any little thing is going to be seen, and that's going to lower the grade. Now, there is a color break there. I mean, I don't remember that there. There's only 2 little spots. Tape could have, you know, as they were pulling it out, and I can't accuse them because I don't know, because I could have, you know, just as well have missed it and not seen it. But there are some spine ticks. I knew that. That's why I said I knew it wasn't going to be a 9.8. But I'm happy with an 8.5. You're not going to sit, you know, you're not going to watch my video and say, oh, how is this not a blah, 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 just because I said it. You know, I'm not a professional grader. I'm not going over it with a fine-tooth comb. So for $125 and 8.5 of issue number 2, I'm perfectly fine with that. Let's get to the last one. Probably not going to get a 9.8, but the seller I bought it from said between a 9.4 and a 9.8. I already see grader's notes, which means it's definitely not going to be a 9.8. But this, of course, is New Mutants 98. It's another book, to me, is a no-brainer. But there's so many of them out there, wait for deals. Because if you miss on one, there'll be 20 more that'll come in the next week. This is one of those books, even if you don't have it, you absolutely want it. Wait until you find a price that you are comfortable with. Don't just buy the first one you see, because you'll tend to overspend, because you're basing it on emotion and not logic. Now, some people will say, don't buy this book because it's overprinted. That is the most, in my opinion, the most ridiculous statement to make, because with anything, it is based on supply and demand. If there is more demand than there is supply, the prices will go up. A lot of people want this book. Do you know that this is not a low print run? There's a lot of Amazing Spider-Man 300s. Did you know Amazing Fantasy 15 is not a rare book? And yet, look at the prices that you'll get for it. Now, of course, it is the first appearance ever of Spider-Man, but still, it is not a rare book. So rarity can contribute to value, but it doesn't guarantee either way that it's going to gain or lose value based on the amount. If there are 5 million copies of this book, and 6 million people want those 5 million, that means there's a 1 million deficit. That means 1 million people are not going to get this book, so they're going to have to overpay if they want to acquire it, and take it away from somebody else. So anyone out there that is telling you not to buy a book because it is overprinted or has a high print run is not using their investment capabilities to the highest extent. Because as you can see with books like this, you can make money. It always depends on the price that you pay. Now, I paid for this book $321. That includes shipping, taxes, and everything else. There is a Deadpool 3 movie coming with actually Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Deadpool is first time appearing in the MCU. That is going to be a big deal unless they totally screw it up. And fingers crossed, let's hope Disney finally wakes up and stops pushing the agenda and actually starts going back to making quality. But then again, you know, Disney's been a pedophile company since it started. Don't get me started on that. This is not something new. This is just more outward now. This is something that's been going on for a long time. This book has room to grow, even with it being a high print run. Because you'll get plenty of people, because they don't make these anymore, the first prints anyway, and every year more and more people jump into the hobby. You have more and more people with the same, if not less, demand. Because how many books get destroyed, get lost, get damaged? But yet there are more and more people that want the books. So please, don't fall for the trap of, well, something has a high print run, therefore it has no value. That is ridiculous to me. All right, so last but not least, and once again, 28 people watching, 21 of you have hit the like button. That's a heck of a ratio. So thank you to the quality that I have in my live chat, that are here to see honest opinions and not just regurgitating what somebody wants to hear to make them feel good about a bad choice that they decided to make. All right, so I paid $321. I predicted about a 9.4 to a 9.8 with white pages. Survey says a 9.4. So there you go. I am perfectly fine with that. Off-white to white pages. Of course, it is the first appearance of Deadpool, Gidgeon, Domino, which is not her true first appearance because it's later revealed as Copycat. Second appearance of Shatterstar, cameo. So, as of now, I might have broken even with this book. Or I might have paid a little bit less than what its current value is. But the movie is just going to help it. And over time, age is going to be on my side for this book. Because just to show you, I bought back in the early 90s 2 Hulk 181s, which would have probably been between 7.0s and 9.0s for $85 a piece. I actually have it on record of book. I used to, before I got into collecting on another level, and it just was too tiresome to write everyone down, I used to buy a book and have a book that I wrote down the comic and the price I paid. So back in the 90s, now that's 20 some odd years past when Wolverine debuted in 1975, I believe. That's 30 years later. And I was still buying that book for under $100. You can't get that now. So sometimes it can take decades for a book to have its true potential value. Especially when it's something from a first appearance of a major character. People are spoiled these days by a lot of these new comics where you'll have a book that comes out and the next day it's already worth $500. But then a year later, that $500 book is probably worth $50. And people have this instant gratification. When it comes to investing, yes, you can have stocks that can rise overnight. But look, for example, look at Disney stock. Even at Disney at 85, for decades, it was around the $12 to $25 mark. It took decades, and then it started rising, and it took about another decade to get to its peak. So it can take decades for books to reach their true value. So there are many people that will be turned off by this book saying, oh, look at the price of it now. If you are basing your investments and speculation on what a prices of something is now or where it's been, then you don't know what you're doing and you're looking in the past instead of looking ahead. When you're driving in your car, and you don't want to do this, but if you drove by only looking through your rearview mirror to see where you've been, see how long you last before you crash. It's not a smart way to invest. The idea is to see the potential of something and where it's going to go. Deadpool is not a one-and-done character. He's not an unknown character. He's not an unpopular character. So this character is going to continue to grow in popularity unless they totally screw him up. And even with that, with the movies, the comic books, they could still have the run where these books will retain its value. And again, as this book gets older and older, and there are no more of that first print out there, and more people join in and want that book, that print run doesn't seem as large as it once was. Because like I said, over time, books get lost, they get damaged, and that means higher graded books are going to be more desirable. So you have to have patience if you want some books to work. Not every book is going to quadruple your money overnight. If you think that way, you're thinking the wrong way, and you're going to lose more times than you will ever win. You know, it's like playing Russian roulette. Eventually you find the bullet, and the game is over. So just be smarter, and that's what I try and instill with people. So while we're about to do the surprise subscriber shout out, I want to thank all of the people that did hit the like button. I'd love to hear what you think about my AI art. I just had some superheroes hanging out at the, I put like a local restaurant. I won't say which one because I don't get sponsored and I'm not going to give them free advertising. You can make a conclusion of what it is. But I would always love to hear what you think about the AI art on my thumbnails. I make them all myself. I don't use any other artwork to do my thumbnails now. And let's do today's surprise subscriber shout-outs. To be a surprise subscriber shout-out, all you have to do is be in the live chat during the video stream. You don't even have to be a subscriber. So we're going to give Alex the Comic Quarter. Always good to see you. We're going to go with Who Dat Comics and Movies. And we're going to give a third today. We're going to go with Logan Maverick. All three of you are today's surprise subscriber shout-outs. So you probably know what to do at this point if you are. And I know two of the three because I'm subscribed to both of those individuals. They have great channels. If you are today's surprise subscriber shout-out, you could put a link in the comment section to a video that you make or your channel. If you prefer to put a link instead of your social networks, you can do that. Or if you want to put a link instead to maybe something that you sell on eBay, Etsy, any of those places, you could do that instead. So I'll leave that choice up to you. Keep in mind, anybody that posts a link, it does have to be approved before you'll see it. So if you hit enter on any kind of link that you put in the comment section, it will not show up until I approve it. This prevents anybody out there trying to put spam, you know, where somebody clicks on it and they end up on a porn site. You'll never have that on my channel because I know how to outsmart those people. So if you do see a link, it means it has been approved and verified. So please go support those channels. They work hard and they do love comics like we do. So thank you to the three surprise subscriber shout-outs. And thank you to everybody in the live chat. You are all appreciated. 26 people hit the like button. Thank you so much for that. I'd love to hear your comments. And like I said, check out the description of this video for all the discount codes, because as usual, I want to thank PGX. And somebody check out one of my mystery boxes. I had somebody buy a diamond package just last month. It was a $2,500 package, and they made a video about it. So go check them out, and you'll see that you're not going to get generic comics, especially when you're buying those higher packages. And it helped me because I've been unemployed for almost going on a month now. So it's been fun, but I always find a way. And you guys found a way to be here, so thank you for that. Frank Robert says, before we go, I used to keep records back in the 70s. When I look now, I cry because I sold them or traded them years ago. It was back when I found out the Kirby crew, GA comic books owned Captain America 1 through 10. Wow. Nice. But yeah, you know, as they say, hindsight is always 20/20. You know, back in the 90s when there was a comic book crash, nobody cared for about a decade or two. When the comic crash, I stopped collecting comics roughly around 96, maybe 97. At the latest, 98. After that, I didn't care anymore. I did not even think about another comic until I started watching a YouTube video back in 2016. So from about, let's say, 1999 when I completely stopped, because I might have bought one or two books in the interim before that. But from 1999 to 2015, I didn't even know what was going on. I never knew that Captain America was killed. I never knew about the Civil War run. Things like that, because I just totally eliminated myself from comics. And I'm sure a lot of you my age, the Gen Xers and the early millennials, probably know what I'm talking about and probably did the same thing. So it does take time for value. Remember, New Mutants 98, Amazing Spider-Man 300, 10 years after they came out, you could have bought them in a dollar bin and probably passed them by. You can't do that anymore. So remember, if you are buying comics to invest in them, realize, and I've always said this so many times, you need realize to realize that investments can take time. Don't let today's modern comics and the gimmicks of all the variant issues and all the second and third and 12th printings of stuff where they see peak value a day after they come out and then a year later nobody cares about them, make you think that key issue books are going to have the same situation. You're going to have fluctuations. It's like any stock. Look at, like I said, I'm just using Disney as an example. Look at the history of Disney stock. It isn't one straight line, either going up or down or side to side. There's peaks and valleys. The idea is, to the best of your ability at the time, sell at the peaks and buy in the valleys. Now, unless you have insider information, you're never going to hit absolute rock bottom or absolute highest top. But if you get somewhere near it and you make a profit, well, you did good. You know, there's sometimes we're going to regret stuff. Like, for example, I regret selling my Edge of Spider-Verse 2 1 in 25 variant CGC 9.8. But I paid, I think, $96 total and sold it for around $1,200. So that's a pretty darn good profit. But now that book's worth about 10 to 12 grand. But I didn't think that book would reach those heights back then. But I still made a profit. So if you make a profit, or let's say, for example, you're like me and you're out of work and you sell some comics to pay some bills so you don't end up being homeless. Well, they served a purpose then, didn't they? Because just imagine if you did not have those to sell, where would you be? And that's one of the reasons why I highly recommend to people, if you can, get multiple copies of books, especially key books, because if you ever need to sell them or trade them, speaking of which, if you see on the bottom of the screen, those are all books I'm trying to acquire, and I'm willing to trade some very key books to get them. Check out and contact me at peacefulfeelings@yahoo.com if you have any of those books or something that you think I would like, and you watch the video, because there's Hulk 181s I'm willing to trade, Daredevil #1s, Submariner #6 from the Golden Age. You know, if you have multiple copies, it makes it easier to be able to sell one or trade for something else and still have it. So be smarter, guys. Don't go with just the popular channels because they'll say all the right things and all the things you want to hear. Because if somebody tells you smoking is cool and you go on a website where there's 5 million subscribers and it has 30 million views and every one of them tells you how awesome you are because you smoke cigarettes and you end up 20 years later dying of lung cancer, you think any of them are going to care? You think any of them are going to your funeral? You think any of them are going to help your family that is now grieving at the loss of a loved one? Just because you wanted to follow somebody that said what made you feel good about doing something that was not right for you or beneficial? So be very careful who you hitch your horse to, what wagon you hitch your horse to. There are many channels out there that talk better than me, that have better effects, that are way more popular. But if they tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear, then they're doing you an injustice. And if they make money off of your disillusion because of the need to feel popular and in a group to feel adequate, then that's the wrong horse. That's the wrong wagon you're hitching your horse to. I'm not saying I got all the answers, and I'm not saying I'm the one you should listen to. I'm sure there's many things I've said that many people don't agree with, but I'm not here forcing an agenda down your throat. I'm here to tell you what I think is going on, share my opinion, and if you agree with it, great. If you don't agree with it, great. Either way, you're still welcome here. The only people that are not welcome are people that are nasty, rude, or trying to put spam in the comments to try and promote like a porn site or something. I ain't having that. But you're welcome here whether you agree or not, because trust me, I still have my haters to this day. Every video I have has at least 3 or 4 thumbs down. The difference is I just don't really care. And I'm out for you guys. Because right now, there's no comics being shown. And there are still 21 people watching. That to me is amazing. So hopefully you guys will check out one of my videos. Maybe you'll check out one of my unboxing. Check out my past PGX books. Maybe try one of the EGS videos. Or look at some of the things that I did back in 2017 or 2018 talking about books that are still relevant today to invest in. But thank you for your viewership, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, it is not you, it is not I, it is We Love Comics. Thank you for sticking around.